All right, everybody, how are you doing? So sorry that I didn't post this earlier in the day, but it was just a busy weekend. So, what I wanted to talk about was the book Hide a Dagger Behind a Smile. Now, this is a book about the 36 strategies of ancient China. This is a collection of warfare wisdom. This particular book is a translation and a modern version that discusses not only historical battles but also businesses, acquisitions of corporations like Microsoft. Although it is meant for war, it can be applied to any situation that requires strategic thinking. It can be applied to politics, business, or civil interaction. So, for example, they say, lure the tiger off his mountain lair. So you should never directly attack an opponent whose advantage is derived from his position. Instead, lure him away from his position, thus separating him from his source of strength. This book uses examples of like tricking a company that you're competing with to go into a business deal that will make them go out of business. Now, of course, you're wondering, why are you saying this? And why are you saying this? Like, why do I need to know this? Because if you plan on writing a book one day, every good book needs a good villain, and all good villains are strategic. Villains should be strategic enough to trick the heroes several times. So if you're a good person, finishing a good book will be very hard for you because, yes, you can write the hero, but you can't actually write the villain. So you have to be able to say how to conquer over others. Therefore, this is a good book to read. If you can't afford to actually buy it right now, then at least Google all the strategies, and they're all online since it was written thousands of years ago. So, but remember, or just so you know, ironically, all successful businessmen and politicians are strategic thinkers. So if you plan on going into politics or business, then at least commit all 36 strategies to memory. So, just so you know, that's very important. Make sure you learn how to be a strategic thinker, not just a creative thinker. Okay? Now, for describing anxiety, make sure you check out this book, The Emotion Thesaurus, because it's amazing of all the ways they describe every possible human emotion. So these are different ways you can describe anxiety. If you can see here, for example, rubbing the back of the neck, crossing arms, wringing one's hands, twisting a watch or a ring, bouncing a foot, biting lips or nails, things like that, dizziness. So it's a very good book. Honestly, you should read it. I refer to it all the time. So the story we're going to talk about is Imprudence. So imprudence is when a character has done something without thinking it through and has gotten himself or herself and possibly others in trouble. Now that mistake has triggered many other problems. So for example, you could have motivation like curiosity, credibility, jealousy, passion, human weakness. So that could be all the reasons. So the fool or the rebel, they made a mistake and now a victim has been affected or an object has been lost. So think about this kid. Somebody left the, electric sockets uncovered, so he's going to play with it, and next thing you know, he gets electrocuted. So, for example, the biggest story this week in the news was a Muslim kid who went to school and he brought a clock that he made, and it was a mistake. But because of that one mistake, it completely changed his life, because now that he went to school, then he got arrested because he thought it was a bomb, and now he became famous and everybody knows him. So it's crazy how one mistake that he brought that clock to school to show his teacher has completely changed his life. And so far we'll see. It's been bad and it's been good, but we'll see how it ends up being, right? So now, mistakes that people make in life, for example, spending too much money on one thing, staying out all night, sharing too much on social media, ignoring your friends and family, signing contracts without reading them, losing important things, not doing your homework, driving without a license, or, for example, sometimes people throw away something good for something better, only to find out later that good was never actually good enough, and better never even came close. So people make mistakes, so many mistakes, of course. We could probably spend all day just talking about the mistakes that people make. Like, for example, that kid bringing the clock to school and showing his teacher, or his English teacher, although his engineering teacher told him before, he gave him a warning. He said, don't, show any of the teachers what you made. So the fool or the rebel wants to discover something or they want to do something, and another character warns them to stop. But the fool or the rebel does it anyway, and it was a mistake, and it must be fixed within a certain time frame. So usually there's a time limit. So who was affected, and how does the character fix the problem? Now this character can be very long if the solution creates another disaster. So one good turn deserves another. Like that kid, he came to school, he was like, hey, I want you to see my clock. Engineering teacher told him, listen, you don't show anybody. It's a great invention, but don't show anybody. But what happens? He doesn't listen. He does it anyways. So he has this time frame to explain himself before he gets arrested, but it didn't work. He failed. So he ended up getting arrested. But it looks like for him, his story is still continuing, but we want to do a short story, one that ends. So hopefully your character can figure out the right thing to say or do. Now, that is why they do say that one good turn deserves another, because sometimes you thought you fixed the problem, like this kid thought he was, he told the truth, so he fixed the problem, but it didn't work. So it's one good turn deserves another, one mistake after another. So this mistake can be very long if the solution creates another disaster. So write an outline for your 6 steps that happen in 6 minutes, 1 hour, or 6 hours. Write 100 to 200 words for each step of your short story. And remember, write a short story every week. It is not possible to write 52 bad short stories in a row.